One big question hanging over Duke basketball going into the new season. How will John Blackwell handle the transfer spotlight, all the expectations going into a new year?
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us today on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, I'm really excited to have my good buddy Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham on the program with us today to talk about everything going on with Duke basketball. I want to focus on John Blackwell and how he might handle the top transfer portal status going into a season for Duke and the spotlight and all the things that come with it. Hope you guys are doing well here as we get through the middle of July. Hard to believe it, but before you know it, the college athletics calendar will be right in front of us. So Kevin Connelly hanging out with us on the show today. Here he is. And Kev, we got to talk about a very exciting offseason and roster overhaul in some regards for Jon Scheyer and company, and really excited to see Mr. John Blackwell step up to the plate. Hope you're doing well, Kev.
I am doing well, JJ. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess you could say kind of a roster transformation. I mean, when you're a team like Duke, you're always going to lose your top offensive output just about every season, and Duke did that again this year with Cameron Boozer being the number 3 overall pick in the NBA draft. So I don't think it comes as a shock. I mean, you can go down the list of all the top offensive options that Duke has lost over the past years, and it doesn't come as a surprise. But yeah, you look at John Blackwell and people who do these types of things had him as, if not number one, very close to the number one player to enter the transfer portal. He had a fantastic career, and you could even look at last season at Wisconsin. There was even a part late in the postseason, or I should say early in the postseason around conference tournament time when Wisconsin went on that run of the Big Ten tournament and going into the NCAA tournament where you thought they were a dangerous team. You thought they could be a real danger for a top seed had they, met in the Sweet 16. But, Wisconsin loses in the round of 64 and one of the upsets of the tournament. And John Blackwell hits the portal, declares for the draft, goes through the draft process, withdraws, commits to Duke, and now on campus getting ready for, who knows, maybe his final year of eligibility as a Blue Devil.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a big expectation for him coming into the program, and that's why that has been a bit unique, because you look at Duke in a program that has added transfers before. I want to get into some of those in segment 2 today on the program, but Blackwell arrives differently because he's going to be expected to be one of the primary offensive options from day one. He's not being asked to fill a role necessarily. He's kind of expected to help lead this team.
Yeah, it's kind of different when you look at it because, when Coach K was recruiting transfers, you did have the time where they had to sit out a year and they could only practice. And, there were some players who transferred to Duke, sat out a year, and then did have a major impact that next year that they were able to play, but you're able to use – when you think of it, it's close to 2 years, right? I mean, you transfer in the summer and you're still able to go through all the summer workouts. You just can't play in the winter and the spring. And then you still have a whole nother summer to really get going. So it's almost like a year and a half you have of sitting on the sidelines. So you have that type of transfer. And now with Jon Scheyer in this transfer portal era, he hasn't really used the portal to get these big-time players that are going to play major roles. That has all typically been reserved for these outstanding freshman players, whether it's been, Kyle Filipowski, and then you go into Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel and Cameron Boozer, and, the list goes on and on over these past couple of years. So John Blackwell is really that first transfer, at least in my mind, that when he steps on the floor, you're expecting him to make that big impact. So that's just kind of a little different dimension in this transfer edition than, the transfer editions of the past, 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, as I've mentioned, it's the middle of July. And if you were to ask me today who's going to be the leading scorer for the Duke team, I probably would say John Blackwell. But then also, Kevin, I very easily could wake up tomorrow and be able to create a very intriguing case for someone else on this roster. I mean, I think the scoring is not going to be an issue for this Duke team. Each and every year, you want to make sure your defensive ability and cohesion is there. And I think Duke's going to be in a good spot with some of their best defenders coming back from last year's squad and that sort of thing. But from a scoring output, because thinking about fan expectations, if you're scoring 22 points a night for an individual player, everything's good in the world. Like, you're going to be, that's what we expected for a player like John Blackwell. But I think there's also a way for him to be just as effective if he's not that big time scorer. But like I said, today I'm kind of leaning towards him being the primary scoring option for Duke.
Yeah, listen, I think it opens up another question, or not a question, but a conversation about the roster and how things are going to shake out. I mean, what was the biggest talking point over the last 2 weeks? It was Boomche. And could he be the leading scorer as a freshman? Like, there you go, another freshman coming in. And we went over how he's the expected number one pick right now in the 2028 draft. And then you look at guys who you're expecting to take another step forward going into a sophomore year, like Adama Sarr. And obviously you have a guy like Caleb Foster who's coming back for another year, and Pat Gongba who's going to be a junior. And, oh, by the way, you have these standout freshmen that I think right now we expect to come off the bench, and Duron Rippey and Cameron Williams, and a sophomore in Cayden Boozer, who a lot of people have high expectations for. So I think certainly there is going to be some pressure on John Blackwell just to perform, because, he was one of the highly ranked and sought after transfers in the portal. But if he's not one of these guys that's putting up 20 points per game at Duke, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem, because I do think they're going to have other guys to step in and shoulder some of that load.
I bet that's a good reason why John Blackwell feels comfortable coming to Duke, because in some ways the internal pressure, you might not be feeling it as much, knowing that you're going to be playing alongside so many other talented scorers. And I understand that, that's kind of the mindset he might be having. He's going to want to go and be as productive as possible. But from a pressure standpoint, it might not be something that he's feeling as much, given the talent around him. Like, what's the other stars for Wisconsin looking like? Great players. Sure, some all-conference players there in the Big Ten that he was able to team up with, but certainly not players that have the NBA profiles of now John Blackwell's Duke teammates.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, there's not that pressure where, you're going to a team that has high expectations because of you. Like, certainly Duke has high expectations, and John Blackwell is a part of that. But he's not the main reason why Duke has high expectations. Duke has really good players throughout their roster. He is just one of them that comes on the list. So, listen, is there going to be pressure? Are there going to be expectations? 100%. But if John Blackwell doesn't have this All-American type season at Duke, I still think this team has the talent to make a run to a Final Four or even a national championship. I don't think their season's going to be predicated on John Blackwell scoring 20 to 25 points per game.
Yeah, no, they're going to be able to make it work. And obviously the NIL era reality of this is one of the biggest points. As college basketball continues to change, you're no longer exclusively building your roster through that high school recruiting. Nearly every national title contender the last few years now uses transfers, including Duke, who's had a couple of plug-and-play pieces, not necessarily their star spotlight guys. So Scheyer isn't necessarily abandoning recruiting. He's simply supplementing it, and John Blackwell's expected to step into much larger shoes. We've talked about some names that have been brought up in the last few weeks in terms of former transfers into the Brotherhood. What does that look like all time? I want to dive in to some of those names, some of the fun stories that come to mind, and we'll do that here in a moment on Locked On Blue Devils. Today's show was brought to you by our friends over at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location. So spend less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. It's awesome knowing that if you use Indeed, you're going to be able to find the right player to join your team. Usually the biggest difference isn't someone doing more work. It's having someone who knows exactly what needs to happen and helps everything run smoother. And something like Indeed can help you get that job accomplished. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Here on Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson. He's Kevin Connelly. You can read his work over at Ball Durham. He's on X at Kevin Connelly24. Find me on X at _JJ_Jackson_. We're going to talk a little bit about the success of Duke transfers over the years, and we're actually seeing one right now in the NBA Summer League in someone like Malik Brown with the San Antonio Spurs after 4 years of college basketball, 2 seasons at Syracuse, 2 seasons at Duke. He was a second-round pick, and now the Spurs are like, oh, my goodness, this guy's doing literally everything on the basketball floor, but not someone who was asked to be a star coming into the Duke basketball world.
Right. When you look at a guy like Malik Brown, he's not going to be a star, right? He's not going to be that guy that puts up 15 points per game. You're not going to read a box score and Malik Brown's going to stand out to you. You have to watch a basketball game to see the impact of Malik Brown, and Duke fans certainly know that, and you're starting to see that in the Summer League. And I would imagine at some point you'll see it on the NBA level because teams are going to see what he can do specifically defensively and how he can help change a game in that area and be a major impact. So, yeah, just add him to the list. And I think he already was on the list of impactful Duke basketball transfers that had their impact in Durham and go on to great careers after they leave.
Let me give you a few more and tell me what comes to mind when you think about these guys. Seth Curry, Rodney Hood, and Sion James. Seth Curry, of course, had 1 season at Liberty and then 3 years at Duke. He was a practice player for the 2010 Duke NCAA title team. Couldn't play that year because of NCAA transfer rules and has turned it into a successful NBA career. Obviously, the major basketball family that Seth Curry grew up in. Rodney Hood was a player at Mississippi State for the Bulldogs for 1 season, 2 seasons within the Duke program, although he can only play one of them because, again, of those NCAA transfer rules. He was second-team All-ACC in 2014, first-round draft pick, successful NBA career before a couple of knee injuries, probably cut it a little bit shorter than he would have liked. And then Sion James, 4 seasons at Tulane, 1 year at Duke, a starter on the 24-25 Final Four team, drafted into the NBA by the Charlotte Hornets, set for his second season. He's going to be a big piece for them moving forward. Those 3 players, Kev.
Yeah, I think I'll go last to first here. And you look at a guy like Sion James, kind of similar to Malik Brown in like that veteran type of player, was mature beyond his years, was built almost like a linebacker in football and played like it on the court. And you just knew a guy like that who had the maturity, who had the basketball IQ, was going to make it in the NBA at some point. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be as a rookie and having an impact on a pretty good Charlotte Hornets team. And now I think they're expecting him to, continue to develop going into his second year. So Sion James, it's one of those guys where you wish he had played at Duke for more than just 1 season, but just a terrific all-around person and obviously player. Rodney Hood, probably one of my underrated favorite Duke players of all time. Even that year that he sat out, it was like, man, if they could just have Rodney Hood out on the floor, this could be a really, really good team. Unfortunately, that year in 14 didn't end the way a lot of people had hoped or had wanted. But yeah, Rodney Hood, I think, is a player that doesn't get talked about enough for what he was able to do in that season on the court. And then Seth Curry. I think Seth Curry, you could make the argument, has he been the most successful and impactful Duke transfer spanning his time on the court at Duke as well as his time in the NBA? I think it might be. I'm sure other people will have other names that they want to throw at me, but I think Seth Curry is certainly in that conversation for maybe the most successful Duke basketball transfer.
All right, let me give you a trio of Big Ten imports that played for head coach Jon Scheyer. Mason Gillis, 4 years at Purdue, 1 season at Duke. He was a member of our Final Four team in 2024-2025. He also had Ryan Young, who spent 3 seasons at Northwestern, got to play 2 for Duke, and was a member of the first 2 teams coached by Jon Scheyer. And then Jacob Grandison, 2 seasons at Holy Cross, 2 seasons at Illinois, and then a final season of eligibility at Duke, where he played in 36 games on Scheyer's first team as a head coach, averaged 4.4 points per game in 15 minutes of contest on 33.7% shooting from three-point range. So Mason Gillis, Ryan Young, Jacob Grandison, like we dubbed it, this section of Duke players, Kevin, the Big Ten imports that came over to Duke.
Yeah, and all were recruited to be those role players. Mason Gillis, kind of that 3-and-D type of player, was on a team that went to the Final Four. Ryan Young, that veteran, that locker room leadership presence, and you've seen that even since he's left Duke. And, Jacob Grandison, I think people maybe had a little higher expectations for him than what he showed on the court at Duke. But yeah, those players that were recruited to fill a role and play a specific part on a team.
I'm the jersey number guy. So Mason Gillis, the only player ever to wear number 18 on his jersey for Duke basketball. So that still remains true to this day, Kevin. And that's not necessarily one of those basketball jersey numbers that people are rushing to front court to be able to claim one of those.
No. So I know you'll be locked. I can't remember if the jersey numbers got announced for this year. I think they might have a couple of days or weeks ago. But there was no 18, I don't think.
No 18.
So he has at least another year of that prestigious, I don't want to call it accomplishment or milestone, but let's just call it that prestigious mark.
All right, I got 3 more transfers before we'll get to a break here. Theo John, Dante Jones, and Rashawn McLeod. We'll talk about Theo John, who had 4 seasons at Marquette and then 1 season at Duke, a member of the 21-22 Final Four team and Coach K's final season. Dante Jones, 2 seasons at Rutgers, 2 seasons at Duke, first team All-ACC in 02-03, first-round pick in the NBA in 2003, and he was a 2016 NBA champion as a player for the Cleveland Cavaliers, now serving as his assistant coach for the LA Clippers. Dante Jones from Rutgers. Then finally, Rashawn McLeod. This is combining Kevin Conley's world. Rashawn McLeod, 2 seasons at St. John's with the Red Storm, 2 seasons for the Blue Devils, All-ACC in 1998, and became a first-round NBA draft pick. So a couple of guys, 3 guys there that all played for head coach Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, you look at Theo John and coming over from Marquette, just that force, that enforcer, the intimidating presence you sometimes need on a basketball team. And I thought he was great in that role.
Yeah, and like Ryan Young, these 2 guys kind of had Duke connections already coming in with the head coaches that they had played for at their prior school.
Yeah, Marquette, Steve Wojciechowski, and obviously at Chris Collins at Northwestern. But yeah, Theo John, not someone who's going to play 25 minutes a game, but somebody who's going to give you 7 to 10 minutes per game, and he might pick up 4 or 5 fouls in those 8 minutes or so. But he's gonna leave his impact out there on the court, specifically from a physicality aspect. You look at Dante Jones, and it's kind of crazy when you read through some of those stats, and not even as much as the college career, more so the longevity. Like first team All-ACC in 02-03, becomes that first round pick in 03, and then just ho-hum 13 years later, still playing in the NBA and wins that NBA championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that's kind of the most impactful thing that stood out to me.
Without a doubt. And then Rashawn McLeod, man, combining your worlds, St. John's and Duke.
A really good player at St. John's, goes on to Duke, kind of takes that next step in his career, as you mentioned, All-ACC and a first-round pick. So the big theme around a lot of these transfers is like great careers at one place or more than one program, but that transition to Duke just kind of elevating their careers, either becoming first-round picks or having lengthy NBA careers.
Yeah, and able to turn it into just basketball networking across the board because of what Duke is able to do. And we're seeing success under Coach K and seeing success also now under head coach Jon Scheyer. So John Blackwell is the top transfer set to star for Duke this upcoming season. He's got a big advantage coming into the year. And he's not going to be the only transfer, by the way, that's going to be joining the squad ahead of the new season. We'll take a timeout and start to wrap up our show after this. Guys, thanks so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and your first watch here today. For your second listen, make sure you take a moment and go check out Locked On College Basketball. It's Isaac Shade and Andy Patton, and these guys do a great job keeping you updated on what's going on in the wide world of college hoops. I really enjoy their insights and perspective. They're talking a lot about Duke, so do yourself a favor and go check it out wherever it is that you get your podcast. That's Locked On College Basketball. All right, we move forward on the show, and my pal Kevin Connelly is hanging out with me from Ball Durham, and we're talking about John Blackwell set to star for Duke this upcoming season. But Kevin, he's not going to be the only transfer that Duke has on the squad this upcoming year, as Drew Scharnowski comes in from Belmont, and then Duke also averaging a double-digit score, by the way, in Jacob Theodoso at Division I Loyola, Maryland. He is not expected to be in the rotation at all. But Theodoso, Scharnowski, Blackwell, 3 transfers for Jon Scheyer's team going into the 2026-27 season.
Yeah, you look at a guy like Scharnowski, who I think, talk about roles, and he's going to play a role. It's not going to be a 25-minute per game role, but I think it's going to be somewhere in that 7 to 10 minutes per game, because you look at the front court and with Pat Gongba, and we look at Jojo Boomche, and he's not really a 5, but when you're 7'1", sometimes you have to play the 5 just to get other guys out there. And even look at a guy like Cameron Williams. So I don't know that the role that Scharnowski is going to play is going to be that big one, but I do think there is a spot for him at least to play some spot minutes on this team. But, kind of what we've been talking about this whole show about is, that big name at the top of the transfer list that Duke brought in is John Blackwell.
Yeah, he's got the biggest advantage of all of these guys because it's why Duke targeted him. He is a proven high major scorer. The defensive toughness is going to be there for John Blackwell. He's not going to need developmental time. He's already got that NCAA tournament experience and physical maturity that goes with it. And we often talk about guys coming into the program. Heard Boomche on the Brotherhood podcast with Dame Sarr talking about coming to Duke and the physical development that comes with it and starting your college basketball career. That's not necessarily the case for someone like John Blackwell or Drew Scharnowski, because they've been a part of college basketball programs in that strength department already. Their bodies are ready to go and compete.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one thing you really look for in transfers is you want that maturity. Kind of what we talked about, Sion James, Mason Gillis, those guys who were mature. They knew what college basketball was all about. Now, those guys, especially a guy like Mason Gillis coming over from Purdue, played at a really high level. Sion James, coming from Tulane, didn't have that big-time experience, but it's the homework you do as a coaching staff to find out, is this guy ready to play at our level? Is this guy ready for the grind of Duke basketball, which goes full year round? You don't take breaks, especially once you get on campus in the summer. So that's the homework the coaches do. They have to make sure they have to talk to other coaches and teammates and all these other people that are associated with the player. Is he going to be a good fit? So I think that's the hope, like John Blackwell and Drew Scharnowski, what they're going to bring over to Duke.
Yeah, excited. I mean, obviously there are tons of advantages to making a decision like this to come and play at Duke and be kind of a top transfer. Some risk involved as well, but certainly something I don't think that John Blackwell is not going to be able to live up to. The spotlight is just simply brighter at Duke than almost anywhere else. And playing for a school like Duke, you've got to meet heightened expectations and so much more. So as the team starts to continue to play more ball this offseason together and roles start to get defined, it's really fun to think about all the different backcourt options that are there, because John Blackwell's on campus now and he's like, wait a minute, Caleb Foster, Cayden Boozer, these guys are really good. Deron Rippey Jr., this freshman is amazing. Like immediately, the guys in his own position are standing out to him, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I think that's the thing. And that's probably going to be the strength of the team, I think, when you look at the backcourt and you look at all the depth that this team has. And we've talked about it even going back to last year and throughout the summer. Like, there's only 40 minutes in a game. Like, these guys are going to have to buy in and sacrifice to, how many minutes they're going to play. And you look at guys like Caleb Foster and John Blackwell, who are the veterans of the group in terms of their college basketball experience. I know a guy like Cayden has spent more years at Duke than John Blackwell, but it's going to take some serious sacrificing for these guys to check those egos at the door and play for the betterment of the team and the success of the team.
Obviously excited to see what Duke basketball looks like going into the new season, and we're on top of it all here at Locked On Blue Devils, much like Kevin is with what he does over at Ball Durham. We'll get to that in just a moment, but as the week moves forward, ACC Football Media Days get started this week in Charlotte. Talking season is officially here, Kevin. It took place last week in the Big 12. We'll see if Commissioner Jim Phillips makes any big announcement about, it's now Monster Energy, Big 10 football. We'll see if we get some big sponsorships in place for the ACC. And then on Friday, it's Duke's Day to kind of go through the circus, and we'll see Manny Diaz and the players he selected to accompany him there in Charlotte this week. So things move on, and college football will be here before we know it.
Yeah, it will be. And, by the way, it's the defending ACC champion Duke Blue Devils at ACC.
There you go,
Days, which I don't know. It still sounds a little weird. I know it's been several months, but the fact that team last year won the ACC championship, just kind of crazy and speaks of the unpredictability of college football. And, that season will be here in just over a month, about 5 or 6 weeks from now. College football season will be kicking off. So it's fun. We're making it through the 7 months. We're grinding. I'm hoping everybody out there is enjoying their summer. But we'll be back and rolling before you know it, JJ.
Yeah, it's a heat wave across the United States right now over these last few weeks, Kevin. So you got to enjoy some time outside and then take breaks and enjoy this air conditioning in spots as well, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a couple of weeks ago, at least where I am in the Northeast, it was like 3 or 4 straight days of 98 plus, 100 plus. And then I'm not going to say it cooled off, but when it goes down to like high 80s, it feels like it cooled off. And, now all of a sudden the rest of this week up in the Northeast is supposed to be 95 to 100 plus again. So enjoy it. Stay safe. Watch some soccer, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Final week of the World Cup. And I know a lot of people out there still enjoy Summer League. I know now some of those high draft picks start to get shut down. It's like, hey, you showed us enough. You're good. You've been playing a lot of basketball this year. Rest up for training camp. I know Cameron Boozer played last night. I don't know if that's going to be his last game of Summer League. I feel like it should be.
We shall see. Yeah.
Memphis was out in Utah before they went to Vegas. So it feels like, and he's performed at a high level in every single game he played. So like, if you're Memphis and this is the future of your franchise, maybe pump the brakes on him and say, hey, good job this summer. We'll see you in September for training camp. But if you're still into Summer League, enjoy that as well.
Yeah, summer's here. College football, ACC Media Days, NBA Summer League, and our big message, stay hydrated. Make sure you stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water. It's certainly important to do for the body. Kevin, great to see you, and I know that Ball Durham is the place where people should go.
Yep, Ball Durham, the place to go. Everything you could possibly want. Got stuff up there about Summer League. You mentioned ACC Media Days. Team will be all over that, and obviously any news that comes across the wire about Duke basketball, we're all over that as well.
Talk to you soon, Kevin. Be well.
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to bring our show today to a close. Guys, thank you so much for your support. As always, another exciting show in the books. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us for free wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Go ahead and take a moment, if you will, like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button. I will be really, really appreciative when you do that. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.